right? No doubt there's a zillion different options on the market for jigging spoons for walleyes. It's actually pretty overwhelming. Where do you start? Which ones are the best? Which ones are just gimmicks? I'm gonna talk you through 6 of my all-time favorites, spoons I've been using for years, other guys have been using even longer. They will catch fish. I don't care if you're way up in the middle of Manitoba or you're 20 hours south of there in the metro Minnesota. These are just tried and true options that work everywhere. I'll just kick it off right away with one that I always have tied on, a 3/8 ounce PK spoon. This one's red dot glow. You can see it's caught a lot of fish in the last few years, and just something special about it. I'll actually fish it like a rattle bait. Big 3-4 foot rips. I start about 2-3 foot off bottom, and it covers a lot of ground, calls fish in. What I'll do after a few big rips in a row, I'll stop, roll this bait in place. Pay close attention to your rod tip. I don't want that going slack when I'm jigging. I want the rod tip to be basically rolling and just getting this thing dancing side to side down there. Great option. Even when the bite gets tough and people are downsizing, I'll do the opposite, fish it like a rattle bait and get those reaction bites from fish they wouldn't eat anyway. Next, I'll jump into the OG of rattle spoons, a Northland buckshot. It's literally been ringing that dinner bell for 19 years. I believe next year will be the 20th year that this thing's been on the market. Of course, they've got new colors and sizes and everything since then. An 1/8 ounce is a great all-around size. The brass rattles make noise, it's compact. It feels really good to fish because it is compact, which just to me means you have that much more control over it. You know what it's doing down there. Purple Tiger UV, man, I don't know what it is about it. Clear water killer, even in dirty water works well. It just puts a ton of fish on the top. Insane. So of course, a lot of spoons have got rattles nowadays. It's kind of the new norm actually. Don't be afraid to use rattleless spoons, stuff that flutters like this VMC Tingler. 3/16 ounce size is my favorite. Awesome UV colors for cloudy days, early morning, evening bite. Use the shinier golds and silvers during the day when the sun's up. But what's special about this spoon is that flutter. If you're fishing in an 8-inch hole, this thing will kick out 7-8 feet to the side if you're in 30 feet of water. You're covering that much more ground to call fish in. I'll do the same deal. I'll do kind of big rips and let it flutter back down. When I mark a fish, I'll stop and rock it in place. I added this feathered treble on there. I'll talk about that more at the end of this. Some things that I do to catch fish without live bait. But great option. Don't overlook it just because it doesn't have rattles. Something that really catches them. Let's see, what do we got next here? Another rattle spoon option. This one's probably one of the newest ones of the bunch. It's a clam rattl'n blade spoon. What's different about this one, that glass Pyrex chamber with the stainless steel BBs, it makes a really unique sound, a little bit different than all the other brass ones on the market. This pinkish reddish color, I can't remember what they call it. My favorite, clear water and stained. I'm not really sure why walleyes would eat this in clear water, but they do. Great option, 1/8 ounce size, is killer all around. Great bait. Next, this one's a little bit more unique too. Got the VMC tumbler spoon, sorry. You'll see that knuckle bend. That's what makes this different. No rattles again, this is the flash and flutter. That bend gives it a really nice rolling action. And the cool thing is, this is kind of like a 1-2 punch bait because you can get that fluttery rolling action, but it's compact, has a kicker blade, so you can pound it just like you would in kind of some of the other jigging spoons. So really cool option for that 1-2 punch. This yellow perch color, it's got a silver back. Our local walleye factory, I guess, Gull Lake, is 20-foot clarity because of the zebra mussels. My go-to when the bite gets tough and I'm downsizing and I want to look natural. This is the backup plan of the day that is a day saver. Another one here that got popular, I would say, because of the Red Lake walleye bite a few years back, 8-9 years back maybe, especially this Technoglow red color. It's a Lindy rattl'n flyer spoon. Another great 1-2 punch combo. You see it's got those wings that'll let it get out to the side of the hole, but it's compact and has the really noisy brass rattles, so you can really work that spoon how you want. Same thing, there's something special with that Technoglow red color, especially stained water. This thing's caught a lot of walleyes. You don't always need live bait to catch walleyes. That's finally catching on in open water where guys are using plastics and reaction baits. The same is true for ice. You can obviously use things like rattle baits to call fish in and catch them, but even on jigging spoons, you don't have to put a minnow or a minnow head on there. Here's 3 things that I do that can keep my hands dry and I don't have to worry about rebaiting when I have a fish on the graph. Number 1, a feathered treble. I got turned on to this from going up to Manitoba actually, and didn't want to have to try to track down live bait, which is almost impossible up there, and salties don't stay on the hook very well. The feathered treble adds that little dangling goodness on the end, something for them to key in on, and really, I mean, it's what seals the deal. They'll come into the action of the spoon fluttering, and then when you're dancing this in front of their face, they chomp it, man. Another great option, Northland Impulse, I believe it's just called an Impulse minnow head. So you guys that can't step away from the minnow heads, maybe try the plastic option first. And what I'll do is I'll actually thread it on the hook shank. I'll take the hook off with the split ring pliers, thread it on the hook shank and put it back on. And the reason I do that is I can catch, I don't know how many fish I've caught on this exact one. Probably 40 or 50 and it's still on there because there's no way for them to tear it off or pull it off. Add an extra split ring in there so that you know that you still have that motion of the bait rocking, because otherwise that plastic can slide up and cover that hook eye and it would kind of hang straight then like this. So that extra split ring is a big deal for plastics. Also works awesome even if you're a minnow head guy or a feathered treble, just giving even more rocking and rolling action. But cool option, kind of like I mentioned, if I catch a fish, they usually come through in pods, have 3-4 of them down there at a time. I can drop straight back down while I'm still messing around with that fish and get another fish or 2 out of that pod before they keep cruising. Pretty cool deal. This is kind of a newish thing, I think maybe 2 years ago now. Glow-resin treble, this one's VMC. Little tasty UV epoxy that glows. Same kind of idea. Gives them something to key in on when you're just rocking that bait back and forth. The thing that you got to do when you're not using live bait is always keep the spoon moving. You don't want it to just sit there motionless. You're not going to have that minnow kicking it for you. You're not going to have that added scent for them to just go, okay, maybe I will eat that. Always keep it at least moving a little bit so that you got that rocking motion. If you're not jigging it, you're going to catch a lot more fish. To me, there's just something special about fooling a walleye without using live bait. It's not a bass. They don't eat licorice. Unless you go way up to Wekusko Falls Lodge in Manitoba, where you can catch them on a spinnerbait through the ice. That's a little bit different, but to be able to fool fish down here without live bait is pretty gratifying. It's something that makes me want to go back out, keep trying new things, just different ways to catch them and catch them better. And it really will step up your game. And I really encourage you to try it this season. You can catch fish without live bait, especially if you're using spoons like these and decking them out with a few of these different options I talked about. If you've got a favorite spoon, something I didn't mention, something that's your confidence go-to bait, comment below. Let me know what it is. One, I'm really curious because I want to know if I've fished it, if I've heard about it. It's pretty funny how no matter where we live, every area's kind of got their own special thing that is the norm and the go-to there. And it's just one way that we can all grow as anglers is to take those little tricks that people use over in Wisconsin or up in Manitoba to catch fish or whatever and try them back home and put more fish topside. So as far as gear goes, like I said, zebra mussels are getting more and more common. Water's getting clearer. You're absolutely going to catch more fish on a monofilament or a fluorocarbon versus braid in those clear lakes. I'll drop down to a 6-pound Suffix Ice Magic if I know I'm hitting a lake that's got 15 or 20 foot clarity. Yeah, you got to take your time on getting those fish in. You can't horse them, but you are going to get more bites, especially on a tough bite. One thing that I'll do, whether it's braid, mono, or fluoro, I'll do a 12 to 18 or 20 inch leader. One reason why, that tiny little ant swivel. Line twist is a big problem when you're vertical jigging because every time you're jigging, that bait is twisting and turning and would be creating twist in the line. That little ant swivel, the smallest size you can get away with, is going to help with that. Another thing it'll do, it'll give you a little anchor point to grab onto when you get those fish in the hole. If you need help turning their heads, they're stuck on the ice, you can use that as an anchor point to guide the fish. Sometimes I'll even bump up my leader. If I'm using, let's say, 6 pound or 8 pound for mainline, I'll bump up my leader to an 8 pound or 10 pound. Because of that, it gives you a little leverage and power to horse them once they're in the hole and get them turned. Also, if you're doing spoons that are more erratic, a little bit beefier leader is going to be less like hair, so it's going to be less likely to tangle in those hooks when you're getting a little bit crazy on the jig. Just something to keep in mind. I like running little snaps. This one's actually a crankbait snap. It's called a VMC crankbait snap. This is a size 00, the smallest they make. You'll see what's different is it's got a rounded bottom, teardrop bottom, instead of the ones that lock the bait in place. I don't really like the ones that lock baits in place because I feel like it limits movement, whether it's crankbaits in open water or jigging spoons on the ice. You'll see that rounded bottom lets that bait swing back and forth. I think it actually gives it more action than if you were to tie direct, unless you were to do, say, a loop knot. But nice for swapping out lures, of course. If your buddy's beating you on an orange one and you got a green one tied on, it's quick, and who wants to retie with cold hands? You know, as far as rods go, in my opinion, longer the better. I have a tough time grabbing any rod that's under 30 inches now, unless I'm in a portable fish house and I physically can't use a longer rod because the hook set's gonna hit the roof or the door. That's the only time I'm grabbing the short sticks. Outside, 36 inches is my favorite. Basically, better hook sets, more control over that fish. You got a lot more rod to help absorb those head shakes as well. You're gonna land more fish, and I don't know, there's just something about it. Once you're using that 36 inch, when you pick up a 30 or 28, it's tough to go back to it. I just feel like you're going, you know, you're dropping from a 40 cal to a 9mm, something like that. But probably a bad analogy to talk GUNS's on YouTube, but we'll roll with it. Okuma, I don't know if it's called a Seimar or Seimar to tell you the truth, but whatever it is, the Okuma Seimar 10s are the best budget ice fishing reel I've found so far. I found them for as cheap as 39 bucks online. The size 10 is just perfectly balanced on these ice rods. It looks really good. More importantly, it feels really good. It's got a crazy smooth drag. You're not gonna get that zzz, zzz, zzz that some do that'll help fish pop that hook out. I can't believe they're only 40 bucks. You know, I didn't want to like strong push products on here. I wanted to just talk about things that work. This works, and I'm slowly switching all my reels over to it because kind of like the longer rod deal. Once you find something you like, it's hard to use your other setups. So I think I've got only 3 left that don't have Seimars on them. So of course, every lake isn't crystal clear. Not all lakes have zebra mussels. Some are stained and dirty. That's when braided line is king. Of course, you can feel better. You get those instant hook sets, and you have total control over that spoon because of that no stretch. Every little thing that you do with the rod tip is translated into that spoon. Again, even in the darkest stained waters, I will tie a 12 to 18 or 20 inch leader on. It's just a confidence thing for me, man. Even in stained waters, of course that fish can still see. How else are they finding your bait? I suppose they could feel it, vibration, noise, all those other things, but it's a confidence thing. It also gives you a little cushion in there. Since the braid doesn't stretch, your rod can only absorb so much. If you've got like an 18 or 20 inch leader, you're gonna get a couple inches of stretch out of that just to help absorb those head shakes. So I hope this stuff helps you catch more fish. Like I said before, if you're digging this, if you're liking it, let me know, comment below. Tell me what you want to see next. I'll try to do a better job of kicking out content more frequently. I got a little kid now, so that kind of cut into the last few months, but I'm back. Do me a favor, like this video, click subscribe. Really appreciate you guys watching everything. I just want to say I got a couple of big trips planned right now up to Manitoba, fishing walleyes, burbot, lake trout, tiger trout, just about every species. So they're long 8 to 10 runs, and I'm going to try to kick out a ton of content during each one of those. So stay tuned. Appreciate you guys.